Have you ever tried really hard to change something about yourself and for a while it worked, but it didn't last? You made a decision, you felt serious about it, you told yourself this time it's going to be different. Maybe you prayed more, maybe you tried to be more disciplined, maybe you removed certain things from your life, and for a little while it seems like it was working. But then something happened. You got tired, you got distracted, you went back to the same pattern from before. And when that happens, it doesn't just feel like you made a mistake. It starts to feel like something is wrong with you. Last week, we talked about that tension, that feeling of being divided inside, wanting one thing and doing another. And we said something important. That tension has an explanation. You were created whole, but you are living in a broken story. So the question we ended with was this: if something is broken, who can fix it? Because if we are honest, most of us have already tried. We have tried to fix ourselves, we have tried to do better, be better, act better, and maybe you have seen some progress, but deep down, you know it hasn't fully solved the problem. So today we're going to answer that question, not what you need to do for God, but what God has already done for you. Because if the problem is deeper than behavior, then the solution has to go deeper too. But before we talk about what God did, we need to be honest about how most of us approach this, because the way we approach it will determine how we understand everything else. Most people believe that the way to be right with God is to improve themselves, to fix their behavior, to become more consistent, to stop doing certain things and start doing other things. And the idea is, if I can get my life together, then I can come to God with confidence. If I can clean myself up, then God will accept me. And even if we don't say it like that, we live like that. You mess up, and your first thought is not to go to God. Your first thought is, fix it first. Let me do better. Let me try harder. Let me get back on track. And then I will come to God. But here is the problem. If your relationship with God is based on your performance, you will never have peace, because your performance is not consistent, because you will always be measuring yourself instead of trusting God. Some days you feel strong, other days you feel weak. Some days you feel close to God, other days you feel distance. And if your standing with God rises and falls with your behavior, then your peace would rise and fall with it too. That is why so many people live with a spiritual insecurity, always wondering, am I doing enough? Am I consistent enough? Does God accept me right now? And that leads to comparison. You start looking at other people, they seem more disciplined, they seem more spiritual, they seem more consistent, and now you feel like you are falling behind. And over time, this leads to burnout, because you're trying to carry something you're never meant to carry. You're trying to make yourself right with God. And the truth is, you cannot. Not because you're not trying hard enough, but because that is not how it works. So what did God do? The Bible gives a very clear answer. 2 Corinthians says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, this person is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, new things have come. Notice what it does not say. It does not say, if anyone improves themselves, they become new. It does not say, if anyone becomes consistent enough, they are accepted. It says, if anyone is in Christ, that is the starting point. Not your effort, but your connection to Jesus. And then in the same chapter, a few verses later, it explains what that actually means. It says that God made him who knew no sin to be sin on our behalf, so that we might become the righteousness of God in him. This is what we call the great exchange. Jesus takes what belongs to you and gives you what belongs to him. Your sin is placed on him. His righteousness is given to you, not gradually, not after you prove yourself, given. And this is not based on your performance, it's based on His. And this is not just an idea that shows up later in the Bible. This actually begins right in Genesis. Right after Adam and Eve sinned, something very specific happened. God did not just explain what went wrong. He showed them what it would cost to make it right. The Bible says that God made garments of skin for them and clothed them. That means an animal had to die. And this was not random. This was intentional. For the first time, I want you to imagine this. Adam and Eve saw what sin leads to. Up until that moment, they had never seen death. Now they are watching an innocent life taken. Not because of what the animal did, but because what they did. And many understand this moment as God teaching them something. That one day a sacrifice would be made. That one day someone innocent would take their place. In a very real way, God was showing them this is what it will take to restore what was broken. This is what it will cost. And that is what makes the cross personal. Jesus did not just come to teach. He came to take your place. If he had not done that, sin would not just affect you, it would define your end. Humanity would not recover from this. There would be no restoration, no future, no hope. But from the very beginning, God set this plan into motion. Not after you got better, not after you proved yourself, right at the moment of failure. And that changes how you understand the cross. It's not just something that happened later. It was always the plan. It was always for you. Jesus lived the life you could not live. A life of complete obedience, complete trust, complete alignment with God. And then he died the death that you deserved. And because of that, when you place your trust in him, you're not seeing based on your performance anymore. You're seeing through him. That's what it means to be made right with God. It means your standing with God is no longer based on what you do, but on what Jesus has done. Ephesians 1 says something similar. It says that in Christ you have been blessed with every spiritual blessing. It says you were chosen, adopted, redeemed, forgiven. Notice the language. Not you will be if you perform well. It says you have been. This is something God has already done. And this changes everything. Because now your relationship with God does not start with you trying to earn something. It starts with you receiving something. You're not trying to move towards acceptance. You are starting from acceptance before you change anything. And that changes how you live. You're no longer trying to prove yourself to God. You are responding to what he has already done for you. And let me be clear, this does not mean your life does not change. It does. But the direction is different. You don't change so God will accept you. You change because you are already accepted. That is a completely different motivation. One is driven by pressure. The other is driven by relationship. One leads to burnout. The other leads to transformation. And this is where many people misunderstand the gospel. Some people think that grace means nothing matters, that you can live however you wanted to live and it's fine. But that's not what grace does. Grace does not ignore sin. It changes your relationship with sin. Before, sin defined you. Now it does not. Before, you were trying to fix yourself. Now you're being transformed by something outside of you. And that is why this matters so much. Because if you don't understand this, you will keep living in the same cycle we talked about it last week. Try harder, fall, feel shame, hide, repeat. But when you understand what Jesus has done, the cycle begins to break. Not because you became stronger, but because you stopped relying on yourself as the solution. So let me bring this back to you. If you have been trying to fix yourself, how has that been working? Maybe you have seen some progress, but has it brought you peace? Has it removed the tension completely? Or are you still carrying that pressure? Because the invitation of the gospel is not fix yourself and come. The invitation is come and be made right. Not based on your effort, but based on Jesus. And that requires something from you, not performance, but trust. Letting go of the idea that you are one who fixes yourself and receiving what God has already done. And I know for some of you, that is hard because you're used to earning everything. You're used to proving yourself. You're used to being evaluated based on performance. But this is different. This is not a system you manage. This is a relationship you receive. The question is not, are you good enough? The question is, do you trust what Jesus has done for you? And if you do, that changes how you see everything. It changes how you see God, not as someone waiting for you to get it right, but as someone who has already made a way for you to be right with Him. It changes the way you see yourself, not as someone trying to earn worth, but as someone who has been given righteousness. It changes how you live, not out of pressure, but out of response. If you feel stuck, if you feel tired of trying, if you feel like you keep going in circles, maybe the answer is not to try harder. Maybe the answer is to stop trying to be your own solution and trust the one who already is. So, if you're watching this on YouTube and wanted to be part of this live, check the description below. That's where you'll find all of the information to join us because I want you to be part of the conversation. So I hope to see you next time.
And I am back. Every time that I say, hope to see you next time, I feel like people are going to hang up. But I think you guys already know that the ones that are here live will continue. So at this point, I am going to open up a poll that I invite everyone to participate. I have to do something weird because the way that Zoom works, I have to launch, I have to cancel, allow the panelist to join, and then relaunch. And voila, you're ready to answer. So, for those that are here for the first time, this poll is related to what the sermon was about. And in this poll, we'll ask you personal questions like your relationship with this topic. It's okay. Uh, to be honest, I don't know who is answering. This is completely private. But what happens with this poll, it's that it gives us it gives us a idea of where everybody is. And that's the topic that it's easier for us than to start a conversation. So I am going to ask you to all to participate. The panelists and those that are on the chat, please participate on the answering this poll. And I don't see anybody starting. I'm watching you. Start answering this poll. I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes. And the first question is, after this message, do you feel like you have been trying to earn God's acceptance? Yes, no, maybe. Which mindset do you relate to more right now? I need to do better so God accepts me. God accepts me, but I still struggle to believe it. I'm not sure what I believe. Number three, when you think about your relationship with God, do you feel most often peace, pressure, guilt, uncertainty? Number 4, do you believe that God accepts you right now? Not based on your performance, but because of Jesus. Yes, no, I want to believe that. Number 5, do you tend to rely on what do you tend to rely? Okay, I'm going to try that one more time. What do you tend to rely on more? My effort and discipline, God's grace, a mix of both? I am not sure. Number 6, when you fail or mess up, what is your first instinct? Try harder, pull away from God, come back to God, ignore it. Number 7, does the idea of being made right with God feels real to you or still distant? Real, somewhat real, still distant. After today, do you feel ready to trust what Jesus has done instead of trying to fix yourself? Yes, not yet. I'm thinking about it. I see the 70% is already done. I'm just going to wait until everybody finishes to end the poll. While they're finishing, I should have made another poll, but I forgot. So I'm going to put it in the chat. No, I'm not going to put it in the chat. I'm going to say it and you answer in the chat. Should we have service next week? July 4th is a holiday. And I can't find any panelists because everybody's like, it's a holiday. So I want to know in the chat who wants to have service next week or no. I can make it almost certain. I have one person. Let's see who else. There's okay. There's some of you. Okay, unable. I would like not have internet. So I think I only have 2 people. Okay, keep going, keep going. Keep telling me. This way I'll know if we have service next week. And now I'm going to ask for my panelists to turn on your cameras. Okay, Rebecca's family can join. Okay, so I have a few people. And I am so glad my panelists are here. Okay, so I have a few people that wants to have online church next week. Now the next question, who's going to be the panelist? Because I cannot talk to myself. I mean, I can. I honestly, I can. I can be here talking to myself the entire time. But I don't know if you guys going to like that. Lloyd, my friend, I haven't
Hello.
seen you. I haven't seen you for so long. Do me a favor, turn your camera. There
Like
you
this?
go. Yes, it's better for when we do the shorts for the reels.
Okay.
By the way, people, last time I saw this young man, he was a single man. Now he's a married man. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, it's not that he just got married last week, it's that he disappeared for a few months. He has a job that, yes, I know, like this. No, it's because he has a job that he has to be in China tomorrow, Japan the next day, Thailand the next day. It's hard
The
to
funny
get
thing
him.
is, I just got back from Japan when you said that.
Really?
hmm
Brazil and Japan are playing Monday. My husband's already preparing. Paul's like, nah, Lloyd, stop ducking pickleball. There you
No,
go.
no.
Uh-oh. You muted yourself, Lloyd. You got too excited.
Oh, do you want to play pickleball tomorrow?
There you go. There you go.
'Cause I know exactly who messaged that. We could play tomorrow.
There you go. I love it. So let me introduce the panel here. We have a lot of different people here today. And for those that feel like we have a little clique here, you can become part of our clique. Just show up every week because you know how Pastor Chris is. You come to my house, you come to my online church, you become family. Right or wrong, right? So just come, just come. I love having cliques, but my cliques are really big. Everybody becomes a clique. So I'm going to start with Simon. Simon, say your name, And okay, let's do something different. Say your name and how we met. There you go.
Um, Hi, my name is Simon. I'm from Randleman, a little town between Greensboro and Asheboro. And I met Chris at camp meeting like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Three,
Yeah,
3 years ago.
3 years already, right? We became
I
like
think so.
regulars. And
Oh,
I
and my sister's here with me. She's commentary.
is that Leah?
Yes.
So he has two sisters, and I met both of them, and I love the whole family. And actually, you have a big family,
Yeah,
right?
there's
Yes,
there's six of us.
yes, that's right. I just met the two sisters at camp meeting, but yeah. Let's go with Johnny. Johnny, I don't even remember how we met.
What? Everyone put Boo Pastor Chris in the chat. Boo Pastor Chris.
It's
Okay. So guys, hi. My name is Johnny Villamil. I'm a surgical nurse in Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. I met Pastor Chris. I would like to say about 4 years ago when she came to speak at a conference in Nasoka Pines Ranch in Liberty, South Carolina, and she was introduced to us when you had first arrived, Pastor Chris. So
I remember going to your church, but I don't remember if that was the first time we met.
in the Soka Pines Ranch, we
At
you had
Nosoka.
went,
Okay.
yeah, and well, here we are, many years later.
I
God
know,
bless
I
you all.
know. Yes, yes. Johnny became one of my favorite speakers. He is very involved with young adults and, yeah, part of the family. Lloyd.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Lloyd Lang Jr. I'm currently an internal auditor who travels a lot. So, how I met Pastor Chris, I don't know when it was because a lot of the years kind of jumble up the older you get. But I remember Pastor Chris, she came to our church and she spoke, shared her testimony. And it was just a mind blowing experience. And then when she asked me to, like, hey, you want to work together? I'm just like, of course I'll do it with you.
Oh, I love this. I'm asking like how you met me because right now I need some friends. I'm feeling the
I take that offense. You don't consider me your friend?
no, I need my friends. You guys are my friends. That's what I'm saying. I need my friends to remind me the good things, the good things. Now we have two pastors today. Usually I invite just one pastor, like one grown up to oversee us, because we need somebody. But this time I got two pastors. One is a young adult pastor here in the Carolina Conference, and I remember really well how we met. Pastor Eusebius, tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, we met 3 years ago, over in, I think it was in Charlotte, actually, or
Yes, it
maybe
was
Atlanta,
Charlotte.
one of them. Yeah,
Mhm.
and we were
Mm.
part of a same type of training. I was at Southern at the time, and Pastor Chris was representing Carolina Conference, and so we met there. And eventually I ended up moving over to the great state of North Carolina,
There you go.
and serving as a pastor a little north of Raleigh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
time in my 20s.
yeah, I'm going in my memory lane here, trying to remember how I met everybody. That's why I was like, just tell me how we met because I don't remember everybody. But some people, I see you guys more often. That's why I'm like, starts getting like who said it? Lloyd said, like the years, more years are passing, less we remember. Last but not least, I have Pastor Neil. We met recently, and actually, I'm still sharing the poll. I'm sorry, guys. You, I want to make sure people can see you guys and not the poll here. Okay. I hope I didn't have this right in front of your faces. But okay, last but not least, Pastor Neil.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I am Pastor Neil Chalaya. I pastor the Living Water Adventist Church, which we planted at the University of Maryland in College Park. Planted the church right on the campus there, trying to minister and reach the students, our 40,000 students that we have there on campus. And I met Chris very recently. She was presenting at, I think it was a Propel conference that was jointly hosted with Potomac and Chesapeake Conference. And we just realized we have a lot of similar passions in ministries and started to discuss how we could work together to grow this kingdom into new audiences and new spaces and places for God. So that's how we connected. We've been connected ever since. So it's been a
Yes.
blessing. And here I am. It's
Yes.
just a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Yes, and what I loved it is that he sat next to my husband and I, and we were having lunch, and he's like, "So I heard your campus ministry, right?" And he's in a completely different conference. He does not get paid to do this, but he wants to come all the way down here to help us with our little campus ministries, because as you know, we need help. So we became friends and we've been talking since. And I really, really appreciate every single one of you. And as much as it looks like, oh, how did you meet Pastor Chris? Like, showing off or boasting or something like that. It's just that I really appreciate each one of you. You guys, I like you know, as most of you know, I don't have an actual church anymore since I started working in a conference. So you guys are my church, my family, my friends. So, and those in the chat, unfortunately, you guys keep not accepting to become part of the panel. That's why you can't turn on your camera. But each one of you are loved by me because I know everyone here, most everybody. There's some new people here. Simone, you're new. You're becoming part of the family today. But Paul, Rebecca, Simon is here twice. He's in the panel and he is in the attendees. How do you do that? Uh, anyways, Jacqueline, Isaac, Faith. Love you guys. And I'm so glad you're here. Today's topic, let's get into it. It's not just chatting, it's chatting and getting to know and diving deep. So, I'm going to start with Johnny because Johnny is my favorite starter. What part of the message that said something like, whoa, I never thought about that today, until today?
You know, I was hoping you'd ask me that question. There was like, it was maybe a 4 second clip, but you had mentioned something that just blew my mind. And it was when you mentioned that when Adam and Eve had committed their first sin and God had given them clothing, but I never once took a moment to really think, where did that clothing come from? And I was like, boom, have I ever even read the Bible? Do I even know who Jesus really is? It's just like, it puts into perspective, there's so many things that I probably have just looked over or have never even really thought to consider that are so impactful and leave, such a serious, you know, series of thought. Um, but overall, in terms of themes, I think the biggest theme that I definitely resonated with was how easy and overwhelming it is to feel shameful. Shame was the one word that was just repeating in my mind over and over as I was listening. And I just kept thinking to moments in my life where I have felt shame and I have felt unworthy to approach the Lord immediately after committing a sin. I think we can all resonate and relate to shame and how it is painful and how it keeps us from approaching our one source of salvation, which is God. But just the idea and concept of shame and sacrifice and these themes really stood out to me in that message.
For me, the part that really blew my mind when I came to know Christ and understood this message wasn't so much like where did that skin came from, but I come from atheism. So when you come from atheism, you're skeptical, you criticize everything. And I was like, what is this? This God wants animal sacrifice? The first thing that came to my mind was PETA, like the defense of human rights and all of that kind of stuff, because I'm looking at it with my 21st century mind. Once I understood what that lamb signified to Christ, to Adam and Eve first, it's not just because right now we're hungry. We go to the fridge and we take a piece of meat. We don't think of how it was killed. We don't think of where it came from. Now, if I told you, how many here have a pet? A few. If I told you, if you sin, Johnny, you have to go get your pet, take a knife, kill it with your own hands, would you think about sinning a little deeper? And that's what that animal meant to Adam and Eve. You know, it was a precious, innocent animal that they lived with. Yes, yes, your little doggy. Yeah. It was that precious animal that they raised, that they lived with. Adam named the animals. Do you see how much deeper it is when we understand this side of it? Lloyd, do you want to say something, or are you just saying hi?
No. I think what you were saying was very valid. I was waving to somebody in the distance, but I don't mind speaking too, but you can continue.
This is a very deep topic. Not only what Johnny said, but what I added to it. Does anybody? I saw Simon's face going like this. Did you have a comment there?
No, it's just okay. I can't control my facial expressions sometimes. So when you guys are like, you like kill your own animal, and I'm like, what? Why would anyone do that? But also, it's like, I know I can. I guess I could understand where you're coming from, where you're like, th he named all of these animals and all this stuff, and then he turned around and he kills it right in front of them, and it's like, whoa.
It's Adam who had to kill it. So it's the person who actually sinned that had to take. So, anyways, we're getting into what it became a systematic killing of animals later by the Jewish ritual and the tabernacle and all of that. By the way, if you have not had this Bible study, please let me know. I love giving this Bible study. But, anyways, the moment that they sin, God never wanted sacrifice of animals. God never wanted any type of sacrifice. But for humans to understand, and this wasn't going to happen like tomorrow or next month, Jesus knew that it was going to take years and years and years and years, thousands of years. So for them to understand how serious sin is, Jesus told Adam, go get the most innocent animal that you have inside that garden. And he brought the lamb. And Adam, the sinner, had to kill that animal with his own hands, bare hands. They didn't have knives. Nothing had ever died. It's so incredible. It's so insane. Pastor Lucius, did you had something there?
Oh yeah, I'm just like letting that moment sink in. I mean, I think it hit me a little bit once Johnny brought his pet into the camera frame. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, because I used to have a golden retriever as well. Yeah, the thought of taking something that means so much to you, and I actually when you mentioned Adam having had to name the animals, that had never registered in my mind as well in connection with the animal sacrifice. But you're right. It actually reminds me of when my mom tells stories of when she was growing up. And when she'd go over to grandma's house, she would play with the little chickens and all of that, right? And she would give each one of them names, and they'd go on little adventures together and all this. And then, a couple days later, they're gathered around the dinner table, and there's little Susie, on the plate. And my mom's like, you know what? I don't think I feel for chicken anymore. When she realized it was Susie who ended up on the dinner plate. And that's just like a tiny fraction of an example. But then the degree of detail that you mentioned, where Adam himself had to take the animal and he himself had to kill it. And when they'd never seen anything like death before, to watch the pain of that animal and then to see its life end, like it stopped breathing and there it goes. I can imagine just how much grief, I can only begin to imagine how much grief that caused to Adam and Eve and led them to realize just how serious sin is.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear, God does not want any of that. It was for us to understand how bad sin is that he gave something very dramatic. Pastor Neil.
Yeah, I think this is, I appreciate everybody's responses. And you see this, I had a golden retriever growing up too, man. Just the best. They love you. They love everybody unconditionally. They're crazy. Um, I think we still wrestle with this challenge. I mean, it's thousands of years later. God required a pet to be sacrificed so that people could appreciate, to raise awareness of the depth of grace, the cost of sacrifice. And I think honestly, we also struggle with that. We don't fully understand. We don't fully appreciate that because we still messed up. I'm jacked up. I'm broken. We all still sin. And a lot of it is because we don't appreciate the cost that that forgiveness cost for us. I remember, I remember the most I've understood it was after the birth of my son. So I have a 13-year-old son, almost 14. I have a 9-year-old daughter. So my son was born first, and I remember. My wife will tell you I never cry. I never cry for anything. Like, and she used to be like, if I die, you wouldn't cry. You're like a robot. Like the only time I cry, I remember crying like I watch Rocky, and when he's like at the end of the movie and he loses, and I'm like I cry about the dumb things, but I don't cry. I'm not a crier. And I remember that night, first night in the hospital. My wife is asleep, and I'm holding my son, my newborn son, in my arms, just hours old, and I started crying. I just, I literally, I broke down. I probably had tears falling on my newborn baby because now more than ever could I understand the connection of a father and a son and to sacrifice him. And here's the thing, I didn't even know, like, he had just been born into this world. I had no time with him. He has done nothing for me. I've had to clean his poop. I've had to clean his vomit. He spit up on me. He's just, he's a stinker. He's done nothing, but he's brought me work from the moment he's been born. And yet my whole life has changed in that moment. Just the moment he comes, all of a sudden, my whole life is about him. It's nothing to do with me anymore. And I will die for this child who's done nothing for me, doesn't even know me. And I couldn't imagine giving up my son, who was a total stranger, new to the world, to anybody for anything. But God didn't just sacrifice a lamb, He sacrificed his son for me. And I couldn't stop crying that night. I still vividly remember. That's the closest I could come to understand the cost of forgiveness. And I know that's still like a fraction of what it really means, So there's just moments I'll never forget. And I try to share that with others because I think if we had a better awareness of the depth of sin and the depth of forgiveness, sacrifice, and grace, I think life would be a lot different for us, even as Christians.
I love the direction that this took. I don't like to focus only on the sin and the bad. And I love how you said the depth of sin, but the depth of forgiveness. It's it's good for us to understand the depth of sin because that's the only way that we're going to stay away from it. But when we're feeling desperate because our sin is so horrible, we have to remember the forgiveness. And we have to remember, which was the topic for today, that Jesus already made a way back. So we're going to end with hope. But let's come back a little more because as Pastor Neil was mentioning, his son, that it was a stinker. He just knew him for a couple hours. There is no rationale to say, I love this thing. It was just born. I just met, right? However, it's everything to him. Let's connect a little bit with what we talked about last week. Because last week we talked about the fall, how sin entered the world, how God is not the creator of evil, but is the distance, the disconnection from God that darkness takes over. And the reason why I'm connecting the two is because a lot of people, remember, I always have my atheist, skeptical hat on. A lot of people ask me, so God knew because he knows. He knows the future. Why did he create Lucifer? Why did he it's it, it's like, why did he allow all of this to happen? Anybody wants to take on before I continue my sermon here? It wasn't supposed to be a sermon, by the way. Pastor Eusebius, go.
Yeah. Um, and maybe Pastor Neil understands this a little bit better, but it's like for the same reason that a parent would even think about having a child. Um, you know that the child's gonna mess up, they're gonna make mistakes, and if worst comes to worst, they may even make your life miserable. Um, but at the same time, there's also the chance that things could go wonderfully right, and that there could be an amazing depth of love and relationship that you could not experience otherwise. And I think God was willing to take that risk, even though he knew it would cost so much to him. Like that's how valuable it is, our relationship to him. He was willing to risk pain to himself just for that experience, for that relationship with us.
Yes, Pastor Neil.
Yeah, it does tie back to that. I appreciate your response, UCS, because I think it is like in a very in a very simple a simple and not perfect example of a parent and a child, because my son is getting into those teenage years. Let me tell you something. You start to regret. You start to wonder. I'm like, what in the world? What happened to my sweet little boy? He used to come snuggle up next to me. Now it's just like, how much negativity can you bring in the home? I'm like, can you just leave it at the door before you walk inside? And you try to do all the nothing is appreciated. Like somebody knows what I'm talking about. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, exactly. And you're like, what? I cleaned your diapers, you little stinker. I can't speak too loud because they're in the house, so I just gotta be careful. But you do it. Like, so this goes back to, and atheists ask this question, even Christians ask this question. I have Adventist youth who ask me this question. So let's be real. This is not just atheists, right? This is Adventists. These are born and raised Adventists, and not just young, that have that same question. Why would he create Lucifer? Why would he do all these things? And I think the reason that we have a hard time understanding that is because we can't understand that depth of love. That kind of love does not exist on planet Earth amongst ourselves. Humanly, we cannot comprehend the depth of that kind of love that says, even though I know I'm going to make you out of love, you are going to turn yourself into a devil. You are going to wreak havoc on all my other children, except I love you and I love them who are yet to be born so strongly that I will give my own perfect son for a chance, just a chance, for an opportunity so that they can be with me. That's not a kind of love that we would understand, right? Like that, if we know going into something, we are going to make a mistake. This is going to be a failure. I have a ton of failures all over my life, right? So before I was a pastor, I was an IT director, I was a filmmaker, I was a finance director. I've had many careers, many whatever, and I've messed up, but never in any of those careers would I said, oh, this is going to be a disaster. This is going to cost me $1 million plus. I'm going to do it anyway. We don't do that, but God does, because his love is on a level that we can't comprehend. And I know that no matter what I do, I'll never fully be able to comprehend it. So what I try to do is when people ask that question, I try to get them to experience that love, right? Because once you experience it, you start to begin to understand that, okay, I may not have all the answers, but you know what? Even if Lucifer didn't fall and I was made as broken as I am, I might have been the first one to fall anyway. So, and he loved me that much that he would do it anyway. Like, I can't explain it. I just want people to experience it. And I think he'll be the answer that they need.
Do you guys see why I like Pastor Neil? Why we got along so quickly? Yeah, thank you. That is exact. Wow, it kind of like blew my mind because I already came into Christianity not really believing in God, but already hating Lucifer, you know? And it's the first time that I was like, yes, God loved Lucifer. You know, it's a concept that is really hard, really hard. Johnny,
I have two answers here, or two responses at least. It could totally be that maybe God just wanted a little spice in his life, and he just wanted to add a little drama into the life. Who doesn't like a good drama? No, but on a serious note, you know, it, imagine, just imagine that you're an angel in heaven, and you come to find out that God annihilated or prevented the existence of another sentient being because of what he knew he would do of his free will. What kind of precedent does that set? You know, now you start asking yourself, well, does God truly allow free will if he knew that I was going to do something and he prevented me from existing in the first place? That starts presenting a lot of red flags and questions towards the topics of free will and love, and how truly infinite God's love for us and his allowance of free will for us really is. Now you start asking yourself, well, if he prevented the existence of Lucifer because of what he knew he was going to do, well, what else is going on that we don't know? So I think there's a lot of transparency that comes through allowing Lucifer to exist. Because again, I'm not sure how things work in heaven, but if that knowledge were to come out, that suddenly raises a lot of alarms about transparency and free will and what God is really willing to tolerate, how infinite or limited that really is. I'm not sure. I don't have a PhD in theology, but it's just something that comes to my mind.
don't worry. Those of us that also don't have a PhD in theology, but we do have a master's, we still don't get everything. One thing I can tell you, God did not create Lucifer because he wants to spice things up. And why do I want to make that clear? Because when I'm teaching, a lot of the people that are like, a lot of the people that come to me are either atheists or spiritualists because that's where I come from. So I speak their language. Okay. And I'm teaching the Bible to 3 people right now. I went to Brazil for a vacation back in February, came back with 3 new people that I'm doing Bible study. And one of them is really into horoscope and spiritualism and stuff like that. And one of the beliefs, it's the yin and yang situation. God created evil because he needs to balance it out good and evil. And this idea is satanic. This is not God. And actually, we don't even realize that behind all of that, there is a very satanic idea. And let me explain to you what it is. The yin and yang is like this. Every good has a little bit of bad, and every bad has a little bit of good. That's why the white part has a little bit of black, the black part has a little bit of white. So in their minds, even God has a little bit of evil. That's why he created Lucifer. Do you see where it goes without us understanding? The rest that you said, I agree with you. God, well, I agree with several things that were said here, and now I'm getting lost. But I know Neil said that God loved Lucifer. He loves all of his children. And I think this was the best explanation that I ever heard, that he loved us so much that he took the risk of having Lucifer, if that meant. Oh, and I appreciate what Johnny said. This is part of what I teach. If he had not created Lucifer because he knew Lucifer would sin, so he is not being just. If you only create what if he only created what he knew was going to stay on his side, is that real free will? It's not. So if he starts selecting, this guy is going to worship me, so I create him. This guy will not, so I will not. Now, there's a difference between knowledge, foreknowledge, and controlling. I do not believe in predestination. And I know this can be like, what? Why? God knew that I was going to make that choice, but God didn't control me to make that choice. He is not attached to time as we are. He can see the future. and he knew the choice that I made, but I made that choice. Free will and predestination are two things that are opposite, and sometimes we don't even realize that. Let me read a little bit here. Lloyd, I'm coming to you, but let me just catch up on the chat here. People in the chat, you are important. I want to hear from you. Please participate. We get in our little pulpits here and we forget sometimes. And today I'm excited. I'm talking a lot more than normal. But, anyways, Isaac O. He created Lucifer because he wasn't scared of what they would do, even if it was terrible. God made humanity even after the fall of Lucifer and other angels. Yes, he was not scared, and I do believe it was because of what Pastor Neil said. Faith said God created out of love and not based on who will stay loyal to him. That's right. Lloyd.
Yep. Thank you. As everyone's talking, it just brings me back to marriage. And by no means am I saying my wife is like Lucifer. I'm not saying that by any means. That's why I'm pretty much very far away from her right now. But what I do want to say is, what I notice is being married. I noticed that there are moments where, like even just yesterday, to be frank, like she did something that really hurt me. Well, and it's something where if I told y'all what it was, you're gonna be like, that really hurt you. It's not that deep, it's not that serious. But it's something where it's just like, think about it. We marry somebody knowing there's a strong chance, a strong likelihood that they will hurt us at some point or another. And it's not by intentions, but it's one of those things is when this happens, it gives us a chance to love deeper. Because like even today when I was talking to God about it, I was like, God, she did this. And it's something where if you would have heard it, you'd have been like, get over yourself, bro. It's not that deep. Like, but it's one of those things is I was talking to God and God was just saying, and he was put on my heart where it's like, this gives you a chance to know how I feel. Imagine, and it goes back to the whole like, forgiveness and the concept of sin. Imagine loving someone so deeply and they hurt you. The thing is, what people don't understand is that when sin happens or when someone hurts you, it tempers the relationship. So think about it. It's like when we sin against one another, sometimes we establish boundaries where it's like, hey, like, it's hard to continue having this relationship with this person. Like, you'll still love them, but at arm's length. But imagine God, who's perfect, he experienced all of us hurting him multiple times, repeatedly over and over and over again. And he still loves us the same, if not better. And it's something where like I guess it's like sometimes it's like this. God and like they always say like marriage brings you closer to God and it reveals more about Christ, like like with the relationship between the church and the bride. And it's something where it's like this. Like I'm called to love her unconditionally. Like, not love her because she's perfect today and she's unperfect tomorrow. It's like, no, I'm called to love her through falls and alls, just like how Jesus loved the church. And it's something where it's like this. I wouldn't have, yes, I could have said, I'm not going to marry anyone because I don't want to ever get hurt. But then I'd be robbed out of the opportunity for love. And the same thing happens with the beginning of creation. Think about it. God created Lucifer, one, to lead out in praise and worship. So apparently he did his job at one point or another. Like, he messed up, he dropped the ball somewhere. But going back to that, sorry, I kind of digress. It's like this. If what didn't happen, we would not know the concept of grace. We would not know the extent of love, like, unconditional love, where it's like, hey, and it's one of those things is it goes back to like what God said in First Corinthians, love is patient, I have to be patient with my wife. We have to be patient with each other, and God's patient with us, and God's patient with all of his created beings. So it's something where God, like, I'm not saying he had to create him, but it's something where it goes against his nature not to create him, because that's like saying, you know what, it's conditional. Basically, he only create like it's trying to say, God, you can only create things that work and operate perfectly, like but then that robs the chances of love, that robs the chance of redemption, and yeah, I know that's a lot. So
No, no, no,
I'm
you're good.
sorry.
You're good. And one of the things that came to my mind as you were speaking was we can only be hurt by people we love.
Hmm. And that you love them too. Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
if people that I don't love, they don't hurt me. I
Hmm.
basically because I don't care. I don't care for them. Like a
Hmm.
stranger, never seen my life. They yell at me, they say, "You a witch." I was like, okay. I don't know them.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. But if my husband calls me a witch, that hurts.
It does. Hmm.
You see, so we can only get hurt by the people that we're close. And that goes for marriage, that goes for church, that goes for family relationship, that goes for friendship. And anytime there is love, there's a risk. And that risk is worth it. Even one thing I have to say, I do not believe that we needed to be, and I'm going to talk about me, okay? I wish I wasn't this dumb, that I didn't have to go through all of this to understand what love is. Like the parents here in the room, okay? Me and you. Don't we wish that our children learn from our mistakes? That they didn't have to go through it? I believe that God wanted us to teach from our mistake, from his. No, he doesn't make mistake. Okay, hold on. Let me organize my thoughts. I think he wished that we would learn from him just teaching us. One of the things that really bothered me is because I thought that Adam and Eve were so naive, innocent, didn't know good and evil, didn't know evil. So they felt because they were uninformed. And if I was uninformed, I would feel too. Like if Jesus show up here right now, or if I see a serpent talking here right now, I would have fallen. Okay? Because I was like, huh? So I felt bad for Adam and Eve. But then you start studying scriptures and you realize that Jesus came to visit them that day. And they knew him just by his steps and just by his voice, which meant that he visited them consistently. Do you think that Jesus was visiting them daily and never told them about Lucifer? They did not know what was happening. Pastor Neil.
I think that so there's so much that it will be end up being conjecture for us. It's like holy imaginations to these. What were the conversations in heaven? How long was God pleading with Lucifer? How long did they bear? All the conversations. But you imagine if our understanding of God, even before the conversations come to earth, like even before it comes to Adam and Eve, we can only imagine our understanding of God and that God is love. What he must have done and for how long he did it to bring Lucifer back before the point of no return. And if he would do that, I don't see any way that he's setting up Adam and Eve for failure either. Um, I think there was no way that he said, "Hey, I know that they need to experience a fall to appreciate my love," because he said he made a perfect world and he is love and all these things. It all comes back to that one thing that sin doesn't make sense. It is illogical. It is unreasonable. We can't, it would be a fool's endeavor to try to figure out why sin exists. If God was perfect, if his love was more than enough for any of us, and if he gave a perfect world, and if he walked and talked with this family, and he told them about it, and all these, just what to expect, and what's the other side. But there was still something where Eve initially said, but what if? Perhaps there's maybe there's a seed of discontent and a possibility of something, and that makes no sense. But sin makes no sense. Every single one of us, including this busted pastor, has known what is wrong, has been bitten by what is wrong, has been suffered by what is wrong, and did the wrong again and again and again anyway, because sin makes no sense. And so, you know, I think to try to figure out why things happened the way they did, maybe God can explain it to us someday.
When we get there.
Yeah, but I mean, sin doesn't make sense, and you see it. I mean, I know people who have racked their lives with drugs and alcohol or addictions to gambling or sex and all kinds of things, and they hate it and they want freedom, but they keep doing it. Sin doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Um, Yeah, God didn't desire for any of this to happen. He's clear about that. He made everything perfect. He didn't need our fall to appreciate his love. But I think now, with all that being said, we all of us, every single person on this call, and every generation before and after, we're all so broken that one day when we get to heaven, we will appreciate it all the more having gone through what we have. There's a reason the Bible says we sing a song that even the angels can't sing. We have an experience that even they can. Not that that's what God desired, but despite all the jacked up things we did, he said, I will elevate you to another place to have a special song. That is a grace that I can't understand either. So I can't understand sin, but I can't understand grace either. So I'm gonna focus on the grace instead of the sin.
Yes, yes, yes. I have here from Jacqueline. Hello, on today's topic, I have had Satan mess with me in my brief thinking or question about if God airway knew the outcome of sin and Satan and all of this, why create the serpent? Well, let me stop there. The serpent was just a normal animal. For me, that is the first registered in the Bible of demon possession, because the serpent was normal, except it was a little different than what it is today because it did not crawl on its belly. But if the question is why create Satan, that makes sense. But we talked about that already, so I hope that answers that question. Is this just yes, some chess game God is overseeing for some thrill? Yep, I had those questions too. I don't want to ask. Oh, okay. She didn't want to ask in the group, and I was like, put in the group. She sent it to me in the text. I was like, put it in the group. No, it's fine, because that's actually, this is what we're here for. Okay. I don't think there is any place that I have seen in any of the church that I have visited that young people feel safe enough to ask these questions. Is God just playing with us? Is God just in the chess game? Because I come from that. Because that's exactly how I used to think. I want our young adults to tell me the truth. Is this what you're thinking? Let's discuss. Let's take it somewhere, you know? And I hope by being able to express it and not feel like, oh my God, I'm sinning against God. Let me tell you, God already knows what you're thinking. There's no hiding here. The difference is you can have these questions, not feel the courage to ask the right people, and give up on God, give up on church, because nobody would answer the questions that you truly had. So I'd rather have you asking these questions in a safe place than to keep it for you and then leave the church, leave God altogether. I had Lloyd first, then Pastor Eusebius.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say, because like as everyone kept talking and talking more, it just brings back one thing
We
that I
talk
always
too
heard.
much. Are you saying that
No,
we
no,
talk too
no, no,
much?
no, you're fine. It was more along the lines that there's no perfect love without free will. And it's something where that's something that God has given all of us. And with that free will, we could obey our parents or we could be disobedient. With that free will, we could praise the same hands we could praise God with. We could like curse him, and there's like, it's something where there's a duality. And it's one of those things. It's like this: if God wanted us to be robots, that wouldn't be loving. If he forced everyone to that would be a dictatorship. When we look at any like government in the world where they force people to operate to think a certain way, it's force, and there's no love, there's no compassion. But with God, with who he is, he's like, hey, I'm going to give you the free will. And it's something where it's like, he's like, I'm going to let you choose me. And when people say, oh, God's going to send people to hell, I'm like, no, God gave you the free will to choose his son or to go the other option, and I think that's one thing that people kind of forget, where it's like there's a whole, like, some people, like you said, talked about like, oh, it's predestined, this and that. It's like you could try to overcomplicate it, but at the end of the day, it comes down to your free will. What are you doing with the choices that are presented right in front of you? Like, are you going to love, or are you going to cause pain and hurt?
And not only that, but even the other choice. You're going to love me or other choice Even
Yeah,
that
no,
other
no,
choice, it's not even as bad
exactly.
as it's
No, no,
thought.
no, 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 no. Because if you think about it, think about it. Basically, to choose to go to heaven, you're saying, "Hi, I want to go to heaven. I want to spend time with you. I want to worship you. I want to do all these things." So some people, God is saying, like, "Hey, if you don't choose me on earth, why would I make you choose me then? You didn't enjoy me down here. You didn't care about me down here. So it's like this. You chose a life away from me. So that's essentially what hell is, the absence of God."
Yes, but, and let me make it clear for whoever is watching later, you are not going to be burning forever. I'm sorry, spoiler alert. Pastor Isias.
Yeah, thinking along this topic, and I like how this stretches our minds a little bit. Even just thinking about the nature of love, right? And we think about God's unconditional love. Um, now getting into some, getting into the weeds a little bit here, but if God had said, okay, I'm looking into the future and I see the mistakes you're going to make, so I'm not going to create you. Is that really unconditional love? That sounds to me like conditions there. And so God says, in his unconditional love, I will give you the right to existence, even though I know you're going to use that existence against me. And then here's the other thing, like I was studying a little bit into this topic about God, in Genesis chapter 3, it talks about through the knowledge of good and evil. And God talks about, the man has become like one of us to know good and evil. God knows what good is, and he also knows what evil is because of the fact that he is the creator and the designer of all things. And just like, someone who designs a car, they know how they designed it and they know it has to work this way. If you don't use it the way I designed it, it's gonna mess up. So they have that knowledge of what will work and then what will happen if you don't use it the way it's supposed to be, right? So God, the one who designed all things, he created all things, he also had intimate knowledge of what would happen if it didn't work the way he designed it. And so God had that intimate knowledge of good and evil. And God had this understanding of the pain that it would cost to a degree that no other creature would understand. And the Bible talks about this mystery from before the foundation of the earth, when God had this understanding of what would take place, and he said, I'm going to take the hit for it. So in a sense, God has suffered more from this whole thing of evil than any one aspect of his creation has ever had.
That
And
is what,
so,
sorry.
yeah, no, yeah, that's a glimpse into God's love. Like, this is not some thrill for God. In fact, if anything, it was the greatest source of pain to God. And yet God says, I love my creation so much that I'm willing to go through this craziness and this nonsense to respect their free will and their choice.
Uh, I got lost here. When I'm thinking, you said something that I had something I forgot, but that's okay. It's going to come back. Let me just answer here quickly from the chat. That asks if it's wrong to think the angels also have the right to. Yeah, no, I believe the angels have free will as well, especially since they can witness God's grace firsthand, whereas we don't. No, no, angels do have free will. Lucifer chose to sin, and the other angels chose to stay either on the side of God or the side of evil or Lucifer. So, yes, they do have it. Pastor Neil.
You're
You are
muted.
muted.
Thank you for all the comments, man. This has been great. I've been just enjoying my time in your online church. This has been wonderful. I want to go back to Jacqueline's question. And number one, I want to encourage Jacqueline, applaud you because, it takes boldness and takes courage to put yourself out there, to ask questions that you may think be unpopular or maybe seeding seeds of doubt and stuff. But let me tell you, it's just people have questions and they need to be shared. You would be shocked at how many times I've heard this question from people born and raised in the church, from some worship leaders in churches that are inspiring other people and then coming back and struggling with questions of the definition and descriptions of God, right? If I may, try to answer your question just a little bit, because I hear that a lot, especially on a university campus, a public university, state university campus. I think what it boils down to is the kind of if he did this, then he knew that. And if I do this, then that. If then is a very transactional view of God. And most cultures' definition of gods is very transactional. I was born and raised here in the US. I was born and raised right outside of DC, but I have of an Indian heritage, Indian culture. I go to India, you have temples on the corners of like every street, right? These Hindu temples everywhere. And you will see people doing all kinds of things. I remember some people were holding their ears, crossing their arms and going up and down, up and down. Other people going in and doing all kinds of things because it's if you do this, then I do that. And the stories of their God and the mythologies behind that, not just Indian culture, but most of the, you know, religions, non-Christian religion around the world, it is transactional. If you do this, then I do that. If this, then that. But the God of the Bible is not transactional. The God of the Bible is relational. And so it's a completely different paradigm to understanding how he operates. It's not about if I make Lucifer, then he falls. And if you do this, then you're saved. It's all about I love you, relationship. And if you love me, relationship. So it's a completely different paradigm, which we have a hard time understanding because our lives are filled with transaction. Right? If you do well at work, then you get a promotion. If you do well on your test, then you get a good grade. So it's hard for us to comprehend this relational God who's not worried about the if-thens. It's just
I
about
can
my
go
love
on
for you.
talking about all of this for the rest of the afternoon because today's topic has been awesome. Did you guys notice that I didn't even go to the poll? Usually I need to go to the poll because we get stuck and we don't talk. But today has been awesome. Pastor Neil, I know you're awesome pastor and I know you have your busy schedule, but you need to give me more dates to come back, okay? Right, people? Yes. Johnny, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I want to just point out this all rooted from me starting first and giving the first response. Just want to say this is what happens when you pick on me to go first. No, that's a joke. As we approach,
Yeah,
the end of our time,
Johnny is usually my starter.
yes. As we approach this last few minutes of time, I I I read this question here that Jacqueline put, and I'm sure many of us have similar questions. And you know, I feel that people, in general, in myself included, I feel that we start to have this curiosity and we start to ask these questions when we struggle or when we are suffering. We don't ever investigate or care to know the reasoning to things when we're doing fine. You know, we care to know these things when we are in a difficult place, when we're suffering and when we're going through loss. I remember when for those who don't know, I lost my dad to cancer 3 years ago when I was 22 years old. And I remember being filled with many questions. And I'll be honest, many of these questions, I still have them today, you know? And I just want to really reinforce and state the validity and how okay it is to have questions and have curiosities when we don't understand things, and to encourage, not just Jacqueline, but anyone here, to always be willing to ask questions, find a safe place. If this is excellent, if not, may God allow you to find a safe place and to ask these questions because they're fair questions, they're honest questions, and they're coming from a good place. And I know to this day I have hundreds of questions similar to this one. And I just want to state that, many times it's very difficult to ask questions. Many times we're discouraged from asking questions. But they always come from a good place and they come from maybe a deeper desire to wanting to know the truth. And what is the truth? Well, our Lord is the truth. So therefore being closer to him. So just want to encourage the validity of these questions and encourage anyone else who has similar questions to always consider this a safe place and to ask away.
That is why we are here. Lloyd, before I go to you, let me just read here. Jacqueline says, if God is Alpha and Omega, beginning, the end, does free will? Oh, I think that's what you were saying, that you want the question to be unpacked next week. Um, does free will and our choices still matter? It seems so up in the air which sows the constant confusion. Today's poll. If God knows our ending, do we need to choose once or constantly aligning steps in hope we will be in the book of life? Next week's topic, I'm trying to remember which one it is. Let me pull it up. But I think the free will and fall and all of that we already covered in last week and today's topic. But this is actually good for like Bible studies. Let me see. Lloyd, as you're answering, I'm gonna peek on what is next week because I already recorded, but I forgot which one did I choose. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Okay, sounds good. One thing that I will say to just everyone in general is that in life you will go through many different hardships, many different trials where you'll ask, where was God this when this happened? Where was God when this person did this to me? Or where was God when I didn't have enough ends to meet? And it's one of those things is sometimes in the situation you can't see things too clearly, but when you're on the other side, one thing that I could guarantee is that you will hear God say, I've been with you every step of the way. And it's something where there's many, like I'm like 33. I had to do the quick math. And throughout my whole life, I can tell you, anytime where I've ever questioned, where was God? How did you come through? I could see his fingerprints and his footprints where he's like, when you thought you was there at your lowest, I was right there beside you. And I know, Jacqueline, you asked a very amazing question. And I want to quickly answer it real quick. And it's something that I was even talking with somebody today about this. So I really think like, hey, maybe I'm supposed to answer your question. And the answer to your question, or at least what I feel like pressed on my heart to tell you, is it's about abiding in him. It's about resting in his presence. A lot of times people try to figure out what is the way to get to heaven? What is the way to do this? What is the way to do that? How to avoid sinning? I will tell you the answer to it all is just abiding in him, resting in God, resting in his presence. And he will carry, he will finish the great race. He will take you where you need to go. And I'm telling you, in life, you don't need to know half of this stuff because God's way is higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So I'll tell you this: if you try to understand him, good luck. Like I have a master's degree and I still can't understand him sometimes. But then it's one of those things is as long as you know, hi, God is love, and that's the basis of who he is. And sometimes like even the Bible says God disciplines who he loves. So sometimes when certain things happen, it's like, regardless of what this, he allows certain things to happen because it's for our betterment. And it's like sometimes you may not feel like things are going your way. Sometimes you may feel like things are crumbling, like with the economy, or I don't know what you're going through, but one thing I can guarantee is God is with you right there where you're at. And he's beside you, and like he cares enough for you that I guarantee if you just take a step back and just look around, you will see his fingerprints on everything in your life.
This is what I love about this because you guys are not hearing this just from pastors, people that have a master's degree, that know theology, but you're hearing straight from the mouth of young adults that made it. Because a lot of young adults have just given up. Now, a few things that I want to share. Next week, yes, we are going to talk a little deeper about the same topic because we talk, okay, first one was creating the image of God, who I am, and all of that kind of things that we talked about it. Then, if God created us perfect, good, very good, the second one was, why do I feel so divided? We talked about fall and the sin and so on. Today is made right with God, and next week is God made a way back. So next week we get even deeper into what we talked about earlier on, Simon, about the tabernacle and the ritual of the tabernacle. We're going to get even deeper into that and understand forgiveness. That's next week. And let me see here in the panel. Faith can be on the panel. Jacqueline, see if your your kids are saying yes to be in the panel as well. And send me text. You all have a way to send me text because you guys receive my text all the time. So you guys can talk to me and we'll figure it out about next week. Yes, they will. Rebecca, are you saying yes? Or your mom is like, say yes? I know how that is. Let me read here quickly from Pastor Ilcias. Great question. Well, I would say the salvation comes from trusting Jesus, which ends up being a relationship that goes beyond a single moment, but actually is the journey of a lifetime and then into eternity. God knows, of course, who will choose to live in trusting relationship with Him. But for me today, I have the choice to trust Jesus today and then tomorrow, today and after that and after that. Amen. Love it. Rebecca, I think you texted me asking if I could be on. Yes, I did. I am 48 and never felt comfortable asking these questions. Been Adventist over 2 decades. I am glad that you have a place to ask these questions now. And I'm 50. So join the club of the young adults, very
I'm part
adults.
of that club too, y'all. 49 Adventist for 50 years. So welcome
I
to the
am
club,
I am a
Jacqueline.
I am a 50-year-old young adult. Okay, just put up with me. The thing is, I get along with young adults. What can I say? Young adults are my friends, and we are in the same wavelength. Guys, this was wonderful. I think this was one of the best conversations we had so far. And I appreciate each one of you. I know next week is going to be tough for some of you to join because of holiday. Some of you are going camping, going out. If you guys can come next week, see, it's such an important topic that I'm almost thinking that it's better to skip next week so everybody can listen. Let's do that. Jacqueline family, I really appreciate you offering, but and Faith as well. Let's skip next week because the next topic is so important. I don't want half of our team to not be here. Are you guys okay with that? Jacqueline family, Rebecca, Jacob? Okay, let's do that. Let's skip. And then the following, Leah said yes as well. Yes. I didn't hear her. I just see her hand. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's what we're
yeah,
doing.
skip next
We're
week and then we'll come back with
okay,
all.
awesome. Okay,
Maybe,
so
maybe
then
Leah and I can join the panel together that week.
perfect, perfect. But I still want Rebecca and Jacob.
Yeah,
Don't
of course.
yeah, don't think you guys are running away from this. Okay, I see you all in 2 weeks. I will send a message to everybody, letting everybody know that we don't have online church next week. Guys, you're awesome. Pastor Neil, stay with me. Everybody else, see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.